Oh, that's weird. Was that doing that during your interview?
It was doing it the entire show. Not the entire show, but only when we'd get like a peek on the audio.
Give me that. Oh, that's not gonna work. That's a terrible idea.
Oh, that's...
Sorry, I did not think that through at all. You'd think I would know better.
Do you guys
Sorry,
need
everyone,
me
if
for
you
after
heard
dark?
that.
No, Lisa, it's very early for
no?
you, and thank you so much for coming on. And you did a fantastic job. It was awesome, and I'm excited for science. Science!
Me too. It's really early, and I didn't realize how tired I would be doing this, so I probably didn't have as much energy as I usually would. So I am gonna go back to sleep. I've actually got a flight to catch in like 2 hours. So.
Oh man!
Oh man, I'm so sorry. Good night.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Have a great one. Bye.
Bye guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. And hello, Dwight.
Oh, I'm on.
Where's your what beer did we ship you? I don't even know what we sent you.
I have to have a look.
I also like Green Jim, who said in the chat room, get potential space geeks excited about space through the medium of interpretive dance. That's going to be a thing.
We're going to have to get someone else for that.
So Dwight, while we've got you here, we've got some questions that we did not get to in the chat room.
Not a problem.
Let me start here. Let's see here.
And I apologize, guys. That was my fault.
That's all
Technical
good.
difficulty. I just
Didn't see it. That's all
Didn't
good.
see
It's all
it.
good. All right, so let's start with Marty the Martian. Says, I know it's been years, but I still want to go look for Skylab bits. Basically, mean you want to see, like pieces of like.
that crashed in Australia. Is that
Well,
what he means?
no, I think more like you've got stuff behind you, right? You've got film canisters. You've got some Saturn V's. You've got like some of this stuff. What do you have going on here? Oh yeah, like a. Yeah, what
That's
is
a
that?
lens cap for the multispectral cameras that they use to do Earth observations, and this has a removed before flight, so it never actually flew. That's something. In the good old days when no one cared about Skylab, you could pick up Skylab artifacts for under $100 for some really good stuff. These days, and I have to always joke with my wife, I went to an online auction about a year ago, and all these things that in those days were $18, and now you're lucky if you find them for $150. And I'm going, it's all my damn fault. It's my fault for bringing Skylab into the current cultural awareness that these damn things are costing so much.
You should have bought all the artifacts first.
Tip for everybody. Yeah, a tip for everybody watching. Get them now. When that film comes out, everybody and their dog is going to want to buy Skylab stuff. So now's the time.
By the way, Dwight,
anyway, sorry.
One of my wife's friend, the son of Gerald Carr, says hi, Josh.
Josh, hi, Josh. I'm glad you're watching. Oh, God. Now he's going to be. He had his big red pen out, going, "Come on, no, that's garbage. That's garbage." That was a little bit right. So, did I answer the question?
Yeah, I think so. But you also have what are the canisters behind you, right over yonder?
These. Just bear with me. I'll take the headphones off. I'll go and grab the thing.
Now we can talk about him, and he won't even know.
Oh, that's so mean. Don't do that.
The neat thing about film is, unlike digital, it's still good, right? So you just need to shine light through it, and it's still good. You don't need, if a digital file, you don't have that codec anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
You're screwed, yeah. Yeah, we were talking about
that. As you saw, this time I didn't have my pajama pants on. I'm fully properly clothed.
Yeah, me too.
Where's the fun in that?
Right.
All right, hold it.
That is, if I hold it steady enough.
Really hard to read.
Kinescope. Oh, I'll read it. I'll dictate it to you. Skylab 3, day 241, ED 52, Spider. That is the television downlink of the Spider Arabella. There were two spiders, Anita and Arabella, that they took up on SL3. And they studied whether they could build a web or not in zero gravity. And believe it or not, the spiders, after a bit of trouble at the beginning, they could happily weave their little webs. And unfortunately, both of them died while they were up there. Just natural causes. Basically, a shoe.
Natural causes, a shoe, the spider knots. So
No, that they. Sorry.
I was going to say, so that kind of goes to the, you've got these bits of Skylab, Skylab history. How does one find, like, if I wanted to own some Skylab history, like your film canisters or your the lens cap or something like that, where do I look? Do I go on eBay? Is there like Skylab Auction Emporium?
I'm very biased. The space mission markets, which I mentioned before, specialize because of the person that has a lot of the artifacts, the film canisters. He also has proper bits and pieces of nothing that flew, nothing from Esperance, Australia, where it crashed. But if you want to have a look at really good stuff for a really good price at the moment, Diana at Space Mission Markets is the person you need to speak to. Without her, this film would not be happening, because the stuff that she arranged for me to purchase, you can't find it anywhere else easily. I could recommend eBay. You've got to be extremely careful for fraudulent material. If you want, get the permits, fly yourself out to Esperance or Balladonia in Australia and get a metal detector and try your luck. There are still people that are searching for Skylab that suffered re-entry. Now, I have a piece of footage somewhere where at that time, ambassador of the United States in Australia said they are not pursuing people to return the material. They're happy if they do. Whether or not that still stands, I don't know. But if you find some chunk of metal and it turns out to be Skylab, from what I can gather, it's yours.
Wow.
The only trouble is flying out to Australia is not the cheapest. And then as we were looking at doing some shoots out there, to fly out from Perth to Esperance and back cost us more than had we flown than our flight from Germany to Sydney.
Oh, wow.
So, okay, space. I always get it wrong. Space Mission Markets. That's now living in Germany, speaking German. Everything S is pronounced sh. So I would say Space Mission Markets is a place to get your skinner copes. RR Auctions are the other people that come up occasionally with very good stuff. There's always me. If the price is right, this is yours.
You're helping fund a documentary.
Exactly.
All right.
So there's heaps of places. You just got to know what to look for. Collect Space is another place I'd recommend logging on to. There's a lot of people that are expert in it. I'm looking at the reverse thing and can't work out from tail. I'm a member of a Facebook group called Space Hipsters, started by Emily Carney. Now, if you want to know anything about Skylab, ask Emily. She'll love me for saying this. She loves getting messages from people asking about Skylab any time of the day. Send her some messages. She'll love it.
So, all right. So I'm part of the Space Hipsters group. I'm sure that a large swath of the community of tomorrow are members of Space Hipsters. So I feel like we should almost, this is terrible. I'm going to say it anyhow. We should all go to the Facebook group on Space Hipsters and everyone should ask about Skylab. Something different. Just be like, everyone just something different. Make her day. Just tell me about this about Skylab. Tell me about this about Skylab.
Oh, if you want to make really good friends with Emily, ask her about the mutiny on SL4. She'll love to tell.
That was something I wanted to get to too.
That's brilliant. Smokey. Oh, I love this. Smokey Dirk says Skylab had the first space mutiny, which led to modern work schedules above board stations. Mm-hmm. Brilliant transition. Tell us about the space mutiny. Smutiny.
Okay. There wasn't really a mutiny. That is something that has been propagated by the press, talking about fake news. We specifically asked Ed Gibson about it. Ed Gibson is interviewed for the movie, And Ed Gibson explained it like this. They were committed, all being an all-rookie crew, they were committed to doing the best job possible. And he said the reason they didn't report the space sickness that Bill Pogue had when they first arrived is because they were concerned that that would affect their mission plans. They didn't want to have their work cut back. So they kept quiet, which backfired because with the audio tape recording in the command module when Jerry Carr and Bill Pogue were discussing it, it came back to haunt them. But then again, the press has made a big issue out of Al Shepard gave them a reprimand on the public channel. He did. It wasn't a nice thing. If you were the crew, and Ed Gibson said it wasn't pleasant getting this. When you read what Al Shepard said, he didn't say, you guys are going to be facing the firing squad when you come back. He said, look, if that's the worst thing that you guys do for your mission, we are going to have a fantastic mission. So it was a rap on the knuckles. It wasn't a big reprimand. Now, coming back to the mutiny thing, what happened was one of the guys was on comms. The rest of them were doing either day off or work on the Apollo telescope mount. And they decided that they would do it in shifts. They would minimize the stress, that one would always be having the comm headset on. The other two would be working away without being disturbed. What happened is there was a miscommunication with the guys up there. They all decided the other guy has got his headphones on. I'm turning mine off. What happened for a short period, all of them had their comms turned off because they assumed the other fellow had it. And they didn't realize until suddenly, Skylab, where are you? That they're like, oh, we've got one. Now, the press heard that and took that and said they had a mutiny. It wasn't the case. It was a stupid decision that they all at the same time decided to turn off their headsets. And that has then permeated into current culture. But actually, this comes back to why I want to do the film. I want to clear up misunderstandings like that. I want to hear it from the people that were involved, what happened. And I've got no reason to doubt that Ed Gibson told us the truth. And there is a fellow online, I can't remember his name, has actually researched this using the reports, the transcripts, and the rest of it. And he said, no, there was actually no mutiny as such. There was a period where the crew inadvertently turned off their headsets, and that's how it came to pass.
So 1BQ5R2JAC, thanks for that, by the way. Asks, didn't they also rip off their sensors going comm silent for an hour? Meaning,
No,
so
they
the
health monitors.
No. That might have been also come about from the Apollo 13 movie where they do it. Mm-hmm. But Skylab, that's the first I've heard of it. If I'm wrong, it's like, what does this guy know about Skylab? Why is he making a movie? But
shenanigans, I declare!
Yes. So I could tell you about a couple of other documentaries that have substituted other footage. We just will not go down that path because I value my life, for one, and number two, you never know. It's a very closed-knit community, and I don't need to upset people where I don't need to.
It is amazing
I'll just leave it.
It is amazing how small the space community actually is. Like, everyone knows everyone else. It's absolutely incredible. Moving on, Space Vogel asks, states, it's a bit of a shame that our space stations went the Mir way with small modules as opposed to Skylab, which was just basically one giant upper stage, essentially. It's not really a question, it's more of a statement.
It's, in Huntsville, I saw the 1G trainer that they have there. And you walk in and you look up and you go, in 0G, this would be pretty amazing. It's small enough. It's by no means a grand, majestic hotel, but it was pretty roomy compared to what they had with Apollo and with Skylab. It was quite amazing.
Bringing something similar, Smokey Dark again, this is more of a statement than a question, but talking to Vogel in the chat room said, I can't wait to see the Bigelow expandable space stations become some sort of the spiritual successor to Skylab, because they will be large volumetric area, right? So station, we did figure out, I thought it was by volume as large as, Skylab was as large as station, International Space Station, but we found out that is not true. But Bigelow, the Bigelow modules, from a volume standpoint, they're huge, right? I mean, when they get will that be in your mind kind of almost Skylab 2.0, just from a design standpoint, or is there more to Skylab than just one large volume tube?
No, that's if they have the grating and the triangle shoes. I don't know if most of the people know about that. That was the shoe that had the little triangle cleat in it that would lock into the grate, and so they would have stability, so they could stand in that. Well, that's why they made the floors that crisscross triangular pattern, and the shoes would fit in and they could lock into it, and that allowed them then to work in a standing position in sort of a poor man's version of 1G. I mean, they didn't have any gravity, but they could stand there stable with their feet. So if the new modules have that, that would be pretty cool.
I didn't know that. That's actually a really good idea. Why does Space Station not have that? Too small?
We prefer Velcro, I guess.
Possibly.
We got Velcro everywhere.
Yeah.
I thought Velcro was super flammable.
Well, aren't you lucky that there's somebody making a film where they're going to talk about those triangle shoes, so you'll know all about it?
Wow, that's going to be great. There was a question that I see was how many people are working on this? Is it just yourself, or do you have anyone else helping you to produce it, other than the people you mentioned who have been helping you collect material for it?
How many people are working on the film? Not a lot.
One.
It's a husband and wife team. My wife's company, 1080 VMC, is financing the project. We've got all preliminary filming done, so whatever expenses come now are for the voiceover, which I'm hoping to get an Australian talent to do that. I don't want to give away any of the plot, so I won't tell who it is. Then the other thing we need to sort out is the
plot?
marketing.
Don't we know the plot? It's the story of Skylab.
No, but this time there's a catch. They rescue it and they put it into orbit properly, and then they send the shuttle up in 1978. So we've decided to make a little bit of a different story.
Huh.
No.
Well, you mentioned that you were in an alternate. Yeah, you said you were in an alternate universe.
I did. Oh my God! I mean, woohoo! Yes, I'm happy to be here.
How messed up would that be, though, if you actually did go that way in like 20, 30 years from now? That is like the official story.
Oh
It's
my
just
God,
like,
that'd be
oh,
hilarious.
God.
People would grab
Oh,
onto
God.
it too, be like, "Look, they made a documentary about it. It's true."
Such epic trolling.
Do you remember the last time I was on the show, there was an incident on board the ISS, trouble on the ISS. Do you remember that?
Oh, is that where we had the cheesy graphics and everything?
Yes.
We were
yes,
like,
still got
we're like,
that.
dun 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 dun. And we're like,
It happens, apparently.
Fair enough.
let's see
Right,
here.
so sorry. How many people are working on it? I've got a good friend of mine in Australia, Rob Parker, who was with us down at Tidbinbilla when we filmed the Honeysuckle People. My wife is financing, is also running as the continuity and any other aspect of filming while I'm doing the camera. I'm editing it together. A friend of ours, Gwen, is going to be doing the tidying up editing. Basically, as you guys know, if you're too involved in a project, you start to lose track of the direction it should take, and you start making stupid decisions. So Gwen will be the person that will watch this and go, "What the hell are you thinking? What do you put that cut in there for? Fix it." So
You get emotionally
what
tied
she's
to the
doing.
footage, right? Like
Yes.
I spent so much time and effort getting this shot. We're going to use this shot, even if it doesn't work. You want to fit that shot in there, and you need a good editor. You need someone to be like, "No, stop it. I don't care how much time and effort you put into it. It doesn't fit. Take it out." Yeah.
And isn't it the worst when they come in and say that? They're like my wife with the promo. She was going, no, put this and do this, and you're like, okay.
Yep.
Yes. Then we have what we've done as well. We're taking a different direction with the music. When you watch, and there's nothing wrong with any of these other documentaries having the awe-inspiring, quasi-militaristic soundtracks that
Sure.
get your heart pounding. The one thing when I was watching Skylab, and especially when you look at some of the Mocha footage we've got, and you think, what the hell were they thinking with their Taylor? right? Fashion was notoriously individual in the 70s, shall we say. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, what was the music? It wasn't the cool 60s stuff. It was sort of the era of funk.
Yeah.
So funk should actually be the soundtrack. And I asked a band, and this is another thing, how it all came to pass. We were on a flight 3 years ago with Air India to Australia from Frankfurt, and we sat next to a South African fellow. And we started talking music, and I don't know if you know the story about Rodriguez, the cult fellow who they've made a documentary searching for Sugar Man. So we started talking about music, and he was like, "Oh my God, Rodriguez is a legend." And then we started talking about what his musical taste was, what mine were, and then a couple of years later, I said to him, "Well, Sean, are you interested in the guys, the 10 Cent Janes, doing the soundtrack for this?" And he's like, let me think about that. That sounds pretty cool. So what we've done, we've got a funk style song, but with a twist of sea shanty. You know, like the old, what's the song? What shall we do with a drunken sailor? Da, 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 right? Because anytime astronauts talk about space flight, they don't use aeronautical terms. They use
nautical terms.
Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, and the song they've done is cool. Anybody who knows anything about space travel will listen to the words and go, this is awesome. Mm-hmm. Or they will say the guy was crazy again. You know, what does he know about making film?
Or both.
There'll be a divide. There'll be a divide.
This is crazy awesome. Are you able to give us a preview? I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
I am allowed to. They have told me I can. I don't know how do we do this. Do I send it to you via my Facebook link? I can send you a snippet.
Can you drop it? Can you drop it in the Dropbox, and we'll just play do
that.
And
so
then if you want to just press the little red button for anything, the little red dot for anything you want to bring to air. Okay. I'll start working on that as you do that, and we'll awkwardness.
Here's a quick image you can see on the bottom of the shoe.
Yes, that's
the little triangle.
Again, speaking of Emily Carney, that is probably her most favorite part of Skylab when Jack Lousma has his shower. So she'll be very happy. She's going to kill me. She's seriously just going to go, Dwight, what are you thinking?
Oh man.
So just going to Dropbox right now.
Yeah, I'm calling it up to. Oh, I'm out of range. Mute me.
Space Vogel did ask, would you be interested in having the documentary translated into other languages and having screenings in other countries? I'm sure you're worried about just finishing the project first, but...
We for German, it's easy. If you guys are gracious enough to play the snippet I sent to you, you'll see that we're already doing it in multiple languages. Absolutely, we're more than happy to translate into other languages.
Awesome.
So now I've just...
And if any of you guys are interested in helping with
Actually, that's a good idea. Dwight, why don't we do this? That's like a 3-minute clip. It's directly out of the movie, right?
Yeah.
All right, so why don't we do this? Let's play that 3-minute clip. That'll give us a chance so you can add that to Dropbox. Everyone gets a chance to see a little bit of the movie, and then when we come back, hopefully we'll have that sound file. We can talk about that a little bit, and we'll play a little snippet. I don't want to play the whole thing, but a little snippet from
cool.
that.
See, the universe is falling together like it's supposed to, so that sounds good. That sounds good to me.
Yeah, this was a clip that you definitely wanted to show of some interesting observations that occurred at Skylab. I don't know if we're...
Yeah, I think we're ready. Let's go ahead.
These pictures of Halley's Comet were taken in 1910. Another and potentially brighter comet will be observed by the Skylab crew between November and January. It's called Kohoutek.
Afternoon, Skylab. We have a special science conference scheduled today, as you know, to celebrate the perihelion passage of Kohoutek. And we have here in the MOCR to carry on the usual Kohoutek science conference with you today. Standing in for the other Kohoutek PIs, we have Dr. Bobish Kohoutek, the discoverer of the comet, and he'd like to ask you a few questions when you're ready. Over.
Ich habe mit den Astronauten nur in dem Zentrum gesprochen, aber nicht vorher.
Good afternoon. I am very glad to have an opportunity to following the comet 1973F during its most critical day. during its perihelion passage, and from the place where most research of that comet is concentrated.
Well, we observed Comet Kohoutek for the simple reason it was there when we were up. Kohoutek found the comet and said, here's a great opportunity, and it turned out it was coming right by at Christmas time.
Und dann habe ich in der Nacht von 7. auf 8. März 73 den Kometen als Doppelbildchen gefunden und Brian Marsden nach Amerika geschickt, die Position, und er hat gesagt, der Komet wird nahe zur Sonne kommen und wird hell sein.
Jerry Carey and I were out on a spacewalk at Christmas time, and we saw that come around the sun, and this is while we were on a spacewalk, we saw that it had a sunward spike, which was something we did not anticipate.
Hey, I can see the comet. Yeah, look it, right out there, see it? Okay, I can see the tail behind. Holy cow, yeah, I think kind of like that, Bill.
So it was kind of interesting. We got back in and we both scratched our heads and say, is that right? Then the three of us got out and started drawing what we saw.
Okay, what we're showing you here are primarily three features. First, the nucleus, or the coma rather, which is the bright region surrounding the nucleus. The tail, which again is the amplification of the one which we previously saw, and is the brightest feature other than the coma. And it fans out, and again about a half angle here of 20 degrees or so, maybe 15 degrees.
So it was a real interesting thing for us.
We have the advantage up here above the atmosphere. We've been able to see the comet all the way since it started far out from the sun. It came in, undergone a lot of large changes, and now is on its way away. And again, changing. What we've tried to do is to not only record with the instruments on the ATM, with the instruments down in the airlock, but also to try to put down on paper what we see by eye. We've done that with sketches, and here the trick is to try to put down the details as accurately as you possibly can, and still get across some of the essential points which tend to stand out in your mind.
But unfortunately, it wasn't as sensational as the ground had hoped it would be.
There we go. Cool.
The world preview. You guys had the world preview.
Haha, sweet. We have the
Inside here first.
audio file. We're only going to play a few seconds of it, like maybe 10, 15 seconds. Refresh your library. There you go.
If it's
Maybe
cool
it still
though,
hasn't
let's let it
downloaded
run.
yet.
It's cool. It's cool. It'll stick in your head. That's for sure. You won't get rid of it now.
Should be in topic. Yeah.
I love 70s funk.
Well, it's not 70s funk per se, but it's based on. So it's modern, but it's retro.
Just drop it anywhere. It's audio only, so as soon as you play it, it should go. And then get ready to just kind of mute the DDR after a little bit. All right, here you go. Here's the music file that you sent over. We haven't tested this, so we have no idea if this is going to work or not. So here we go.
Cabin pressure stabilized. Can you read me 5 by? Centrifugal forces keep me grounded. I'm so high. The gravity of the situation is not lost on me.
That's fantastic. I like that a lot.
There you go.
That feels really cool.
That even just that
you can
example.
play the chorus if you like.
I love. Oh well, yeah.
There we go.
For the skies, keep her sails trimmed until dawn's early light. Across these new frontiers, may the stars be our guide. On the horizon we ride.
Yeah, that I mean, you get a feel for what it's going to be like, and that feels like Skylab. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah. And like the vocals on that
Thank
remind
you.
me of like the folksy, like almost not quite country, but that type of folksy music that those guys back then would listen to.
Actually, if people are interested, there is an album that's a lot like that. I think it's called "To Touch the Stars," that has a lot of songs like kind of in that same-ish genre.
Who is it who does that?
It's a group of artists. So
okay.
it's just a collection of songs. One of my favorite songs is about Sputnik, and it's just hilarious. It's fantastic. We love it. All right, keep going. I'm sorry. I derailed the whole thing, but I love the clip.
Oh, that's cool.
Thank you for the clip. We had it, and there wasn't a good way to roll it into the main interview because there wasn't a way to tie it in without kind of like. You almost derail the conversation, have to come back. But I'm glad we got to it in After Dark. Yeah.
Yeah, it works better now. It wouldn't have worked in the interview. So you guys are the boss, and
well, no, Carrie Ann's the boss. Carrie Ann's the boss. And thank you for the clip on the audio. That's really cool.
Yeah.
All right, I'm sorry. Yeah.
So I do have a couple of like kind of more esoteric technical questions and stuff like that, unless there was anything else that you wanted to get to first. One of the questions from Green Jim 2, or LL, or however you want to say it, he asked the question, how far did the wet workshop version of Skylab, and Skylab being a dry workshop,
hit the red button.
How far did the wet workshop version of Skylab get?
There you go. Then it makes it on the screen.
Planning stages. Do you know, I didn't ask the engineers in Huntsville that, so that's a good question. That will make me look into that because I've got all the documentation. You can't see the folders behind me, but I need to look into that. That's what I do have is access to a private archive of transferred film. Who is Stephen Slater? Coming back to the question, who is on the team? He is the head of our archive specialist is his title, and he has made available some footage that is absolutely amazing. And there is a lot of the assembly of Skylab that we've got. It's just a matter of sifting through about 200 hours worth of footage.
Oof.
And just to give you an idea of the sort of material we've found, that thanks to his archive, we found that little bit of footage where we suspect, I've shown it to a couple of space nuts, and they all suspect it is the part of the launch where the meteoroid shield is coming off. And there was also another problem with the skirting board for the stage, and it had not properly separated, and there was a problem with the rocket plume. You don't see this on any of the TV footage because they didn't have the rocket in shot anymore because of the clouds. But this one particular piece of film shows there is an anomaly. You look at the flames coming out the back, and you're like, hey, that looks very different to how it looked for the Apollo missions from the Saturn V. So what we're going to do is put that footage in there and leave it an open question because it's very difficult to figure out what that footage is showing, but it happens at the right point in time where it very much looks like it.
That'd be pretty. I'm excited to see that. Has that ever aired anywhere before, or will you be the first to ever?
Not that we know. Not that we know. Portions of that footage have, but I think it's fallen through the cracks that no one quite realized that's what it was showing, and it's just obsessed person extraordinaire. You know what? If I can find it, I can make that available for. You know what? No, we'll surprise it. We'll surprise.
Yeah, you got to leave something for the documentary. I mean, you don't show it all on this show. Yeah,
exactly. We've got stuff like that. We have when the Skylab astronauts are around the table and they're looking at bits and pieces, and there's no audio, right? And then it shows Pete Conrad, and he just goes without the sound. He goes. It must have been something like this, tiny, and he's holding it in his hand, and it cost $3 million. $3 million? You're kidding me. Then what else do we, that's really, really cool? We've got Pete Conrad going to the toilet. Seriously, he sets the 16mm camera up, and they must have been required to film this for the engineers or for the mission planners. He pulls his DAX down, he goes and sits on the toilet, and he does his business, and he gets off it. It's like, oh, okay, that's fantastic, great, whoa.
Never thought you'd actually see that.
Is that making it into the documentary?
Not sure if I want to see that.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's on my list of things I want to see.
Trust me, you won't know what you've missed until you've seen it.
All right, what's up next?
Well, one of the questions that this is from Neuropilot is that did they have any mini vacuum devices on Skylab?
In order to clean the space station, yes, they certainly did. We have footage of that. What they had to do, they had to regularly go to the air filter system and vacuum the screens clean, because over the course of the mission, and as Ed Gibson was saying to us, if we lost something, we would just have to wait a couple of days and we would know it would make its way up to the screens. And they had the mini vacuum there. There is footage of Jerry Carr cleaning the screens. I suppose I could make that file available to you as well if you want. I don't know how much time have we still got.
Nah, we're going to wind down soon.
Yeah, it's all right.
Oh, we're just getting started. Look, I've just already finished the first beer. Oh, just kidding. There was only water in that one.
Water. Well, water, not vodka. Water.
Water. Yes, you know, in Polish, vodka. The word for vodka is vodka, and the word for water is a voda, and the only difference is a K. So anyway, that has nothing to do with Skylab.
Or everything to do.
Well, speaking of alcohol, can you touch on the sherry that they had up there? Or was it brandy? I'm pretty sure it was sherry, though.
They weren't allowed to drink it. That was for the Christmas celebrations. And again, this is the SL4 crew decided we're not going to drink it. It's going to hamper our performance. So they were most definitely committed to doing the best job possible. Again, you know, it makes this mutiny thing sort of a moot point when you look at it. But anyway.
See, I never heard it as mutiny. I heard it more, and I'm sure that's a thing, but I always heard it as the ground controllers were treating the Skylab program like Apollo. And so on Apollo, you had a very short, finite amount of time to get a lot of stuff done. So there were limited breaks. It was go, 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 go. You can rest when you're back here on Earth. But Skylab wasn't that way, right? I mean, Skylab was long duration missions, much longer than Apollo. But they hadn't converted, this is the story, this is how I understood the story. They hadn't converted away from the mentality of Apollo of go, 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 go. So they were still doing that, like really pushing, like go, go, go. And eventually they're like, we need some breaks, people. That was how I heard it.
That is exactly how it was. And when you read the mission debrief, if you've gotten the Skylab 4 mission report, it is a very different debrief to SL2 and SL3, because Alan Bean and Pete Conrad had been to the moon. They were used to being regimented like that. We will do this like this. The SL4 crew were approaching their mission from the transition period into shuttle. And they were thinking, how do we analyze our mission to benefit the coming shuttle crews? Because the way it was going to be on shuttle was different to Apollo, Gemini, and Mercury. And when you read the debrief, they are very constructively criticizing things that would affect the later shuttle crews. And when you first read it, you think, whoa, they're a bit, got ants in their pants, what the hell? But then Ed Gibson was telling us, we were doing that for a purpose. We were making sure that we were properly going through everything to make sure it was ready and finalized for shuttle, because they knew, apart from ASTP, they were the last long duration mission that was going to happen for another minimum, definitely 5 years. As it turned out, nearly 10 years passed. Well, wait on, 74 to 81, 6 years. That's a long period of time.
They weren't necessarily wrong. I mean, a lot of the lessons they learned on that mission are used on station today and station planning, building in break periods and building in those times of like, just relax, like building in windows for things to go over or under so that they're not constantly, from the time they wake up to the time they sleep, just going at 110%.
That's the thing, once they had discussed their problems with the ground, it worked perfectly. Once they said, stop micromanaging us, we can do this on our own, let's think of something. It was never a case of we're downing our tools until you sort your problems out. It was a case of, please, let's work together to get this to happen. And once that was made apparent, it worked very, very nicely, and they had an extremely successful mission. They viewed, as you saw on the clip, they viewed Comet Kohoutek. The comet itself wasn't as bright as predicted, and so it wasn't as dazzling on the ground. But for the data they picked up, that was the first time that they ever observed a comet from a space station. They did not have any atmospheric hindrance. They like Ed said on the spacewalk, they looked, and you can hear it in their voice how enthused they are. Like, oh my God, we can see this! How fantastic! Then they did a lot of fluid experiments. They did free floating zone experiments, things that were just amazing stuff to watch. And you think, oh, science is boring. It's not boring when you watch this stuff. It is absolutely exciting. And this comes back to the question at the beginning of the interview. Why am I doing the documentary? Because this stuff is fantastic, and people need to be enthused. People need to see that it's been going on actually for quite a while, how cool space is. And it's not just planting a flag on the moon. It's doing proper science.
Very cool. Very cool. And kind of regarding going back to the clips, regarding that food clip of the guys testing out the food in the parabolic arcs, To Wicked had a question of asking whether or not you had ever tried using social media like Reddit to identify the men.
We've used Space Hipsters and a couple of experts who we suspect the fellow on the right could have been Rick Husband, but we're not sure. We did a side-by-side comparison of then and now, but we suspect it isn't. So the closest, I've even actually asked Joe Kerwin. I sent him a photo and I said, do you know who these guys are? And he just said, more than likely Air Force. And I can't tell you anything else. I don't know who they are.
But other people like Robert Perlman, other people who do artifacts, did you put it in front of him as well?
Do you know? Good question. It was a couple of years back that I got that film. So
actually, To Wicked has a good idea. It might be worth just dropping it on Twitter and Facebook and Reddit and all of them again, and just being like, "Hey, who are these people?"
Anyone know?
So
yeah.
Hats
tweet
off to
that
you.
to the NASA history office. Tweet that over to the NASA history office, and they might even be able to find that for you.
And then you'll see another tweet after that going, filmmaker in Germany arrested for access to secure film.
How did you get this? Oops.
I think we have three questions left.
More comments than questions. Okay. But X Arrow had a comment saying that he's really looking forward to seeing this documentary. So many fascinating stories around Skylab, which is absolutely true, absolutely true. And one thing that I did want to ask it, and maybe I'm confusing this for one of the Salyut stories, but on one of the, I think it was SL2 maybe, during one of the spacewalks, didn't one of the astronauts get distracted and became untethered temporarily, and the other guy had to come out and grab him?
Wait, what?
They weren't untethered. When the solar panel deployed, Joe Kerwin said he lost his footing, and they were attached by that rope thing that they used to hoist the thing out of its slot. Mm-hmm. And he said for a moment he was just rolling out in space, and then Pete Conrad was pulling him back. So it wasn't a case of that they were untethered, but they were happily floating out there for a bit. That was Joe Kerwin. We have that on film. That will be in the film now that we know that there's a prospective audience to hear about that.
Awesome. Yeah, I'd love to see that. Here's a comment from Heliopausing. Pause. I'd love to tell and explain to people about all of the products that we take for granted, but originally were developed by NASA, even the lens in your smartphone. So yeah, I definitely agree that there's a lot of stuff that we take for granted that first came out of NASA, and we touched on that a little bit earlier, like a lot of the medical advances that were made just to monitor the health of the astronauts that have had so many applications back here on the ground. So, do you have any other cool topics like that relate to Skylab?
In the promo you showed about a month ago when we first uploaded the trailer for the film, there's David Hitt who says Skylab is the first time that orbit becomes a destination. And before that, it was taken for granted. You'd launch something, it would come back down, there would be no problems. They didn't have a contingency plan for what would happen when the meteoroid shield ripped off the solar panel because they never assumed it could happen. It happened the day that rocket launched, that they started making contingency plans for things. That's when they started thinking about why do we need people in space? Well, when the thing breaks, you need somebody out there to fix it. There's no robot in 1973 that could have done that.
Yeah.
That we know of.
True.
So that for me, you know, I'm very, like we were talking about, I'm very close to the whole Skylab project. I know a lot about it, and yet that perspective was something that when David said that in front of the camera, I'm like, you know, I've never thought about that. That's true. That's the first time that orbit became a destination. And as he put it in the footage we shot, he said, it's like when you go on holidays, you don't go to the motorway for your holiday. You go to the coast, right? Skylab was, we're going to the motorway for our trip. Yeah, and what? No, that's where we're going, to the motorway for our trip. That's our trip.
It's a very long road trip with no destination.
That's right. That's right. Well, they did have an end destination. That's Esperance in Western Australia, where you can still find pieces of it if you get the permission and go looking.
And speaking of that, Mac in Space had a comment.
Actually, I think that would be a ton of fun. That feels like a tomorrow road trip. Let's go find pieces of Skylab.
Mac in Space had a comment related to that, saying that, and maybe you can confirm whether or not this is true, that Australia, I'm pretty sure I've heard this before, fined NASA $400 for littering when Skylab crashed and deorbited.
And rightly so, I might add. We can't have these tourists coming into our country and throwing their weight around. No. And do you know, it was, it was a sort of tongue-in-cheek fine. It wasn't anything that anybody really, well, maybe one or two politicians were going, now listen, these NASA folk have not paid their $400 fine, and we've got a bit of a budget deficit at the moment. We need to sort this out. What ended up happening? There was a radio station, if I remember correctly, in San Francisco that decided time was up. We have to pay it, so they paid the fine.
Oh wow!
And it was only a couple of years ago. It wasn't that long ago.
Wow.
So wait, we just now paid the $400 fine. It was paid by a radio station?
Yeah, exactly. And I think they added interest to it, so it ended up being about $4 million. But that's
marked with inflation,
yeah. I think that's fair. Yes.
That's funny.
All right, let's see if there's anything else. No, I think that's about it. And I know we touched on this.
You have to mention the lighting. You have to mention the lighting.
Oh, I didn't mention the lighting. You are... I do think it's hilarious, and we noticed this prior to going live today. I believe you are our first guest to have full three-point lighting.
That one, and that one. And
for those who don't know, three-point lighting is a traditional lighting technique for... I can't tell what kind of light it is. It was bright. A traditional lighting technique for video and film for when you're doing like interviews and whatnot. So, for example, if you're making a documentary and you're going to put a person on screen, you'll do three-point lighting, which is a bit of a misnomer because three-point lighting can be done with 2 lights and usually involves 4. Okay, but but yeah. We were looking at that and I'm like, that looks fantastic. What's going on? Because you had like nice little hair light going on, really good fill in the face. Yeah, it was great. It was fantastic.
That many hours I spent setting up the lighting before we did the show.
I felt yeah, and we had him panic. We had Dwight panicked before the show, which was part of my evil plan all along. But there were the clips that were used in the show, and those were all shared via Dropbox. But there was a screw up in the Dropbox share, and so I basically said, he asked, when do you need the media by? And I said, we need it about no later than 12 hours prior to the show, because we have to take the media, we have to recompress it, turn it into 4K, make sure it works in the system. There are things that we have to do to tweak the media to make sure it plays back correctly, and and so. Last night, I go to pull it in. I don't know, it was like 18, 20 hours prior to the show. And I'm like, there's nothing in the folder. So I ping him. I'm like, there's nothing in the folder. And then we must have missed each other on sleep schedule because I'm like, all right, well, we'll deal with it tomorrow. So I go to bed and you wake up like early because you're at different times. So you're like, oh my God, there is nothing in the folder. I'm so sorry. You're like, here are all of the links. I'm asleep. I'm just like, oh God, here's all this stuff. Can you still use it? I'm still sleeping. I get it. I wake up. I'm like, cool. I send it over to the automated encoders. You're like, have you got it yet? I'm sorry. Haven't answered yet. Then eventually I'm like, oh yeah, no, it's fine.
Do you know there is a website that, I shouldn't actually say this, let's just say that I managed to find your phone number and I was ready to call you and go, have you got the files?
Oh, man.
Oh, my God, that's hilarious. We did get them all. And I think did we air them all? We aired, we had the food, we had the 3-minute comic clip, we got the launch, we had the commercial clip.
I was in the middle of the Payload Flow SL1 launch.
Oh yeah, and we did the
touch-ups.
The touch-ups clip. We did that one too. Yeah, that was all 5.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. And the music. We got the music.
Exactly.
Clip number 6.
I mean, if you want to play the other trailer, that's the one with Emily Carney and David Hitt and Andy Chaikin.
We actually
my guest, but
we play that. We play that in a lot of our breaks already for the shows when we don't have like a second commercial clip or anything like that. So we've been kind of trying to promote the Skylab. Oh yeah. You've been on a bunch of our shows, and actually, so I think we're winding down to this point. I would love to bring you back like right after the documentary is released, because what's going to happen is you've got all this footage, right? Your role at this point is to sift through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of footage to find the 3 seconds of awesome, usable stuff out of that hundreds of hours, and
Pete Conrad with his pants down,
and then put it together in a compelling story, right? So almost all of it's going to hit the cutting room floor, and I would love to bring you back on and talk about the things that did not make it into the documentary that you thought were like, oh, I really wanted to put that in there, but it just didn't fit the story. Because I guarantee you that you're going to have like an hour plus worth of stories of things that will not make it in, but are still very cool and compelling stories on their own. I think that'll be really awesome. I'm excited for that show. Are you going to release Are you going to release the documentary online as well? So I don't have to get like a Blu-ray or anything like that. All right, cool. How are you going to release it? Like how?
The Blu-ray will have all the bonus footage.
Yeah, but no one. Do you have a Blu-ray player?
No. Yeah.
You do? So
Dutta
does.
I'm interested. I want it.
All right, cool. So Dutta will buy one.
Yep.
Of the people in this room, 1/3 of them are capable of playing back Blu-ray.
He can buy it and rip it for you.
No. So I'm just saying that no. And actually, I would spend more for an online version that has all of the extra stuff, so that I don't have to have a Blu-ray player. Right? I'm
okay,
cool with that.
We are definitely we're anticipating video on demand.
Cool.
The bonus stuff that all needs to be finalized, but there's plenty of it right here. I mean, that's the stuff I physically have copies of. I also have digitized stuff that we got the food tasting that came from the University of Texas, and it was just. When you're writing these books, you get this knack for being able to find stuff. And so I typed in Google, Skylab Kinescope downlink special collection, and boom, and the University of Texas came up, and they graciously transferred all that stuff for me on their on-site facility. And again, it was a case of a lot of stuff, and then bang, and you'll have something like this, and there's this other footage in there that it's hilarious because it got me by accident. It shows them suiting up for what I thought was a spacewalk. And it's the one frame a second So it's all sped up, and you just see the astronauts, blah, 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 blah. And then in the middle of the shot, the side panel of the space station opens up, and there's a photographer. And I'm like, hey, this is not from the missions. This is something else. And I looked at the date, and it was July, and it was the Skylab 4 or the SL4 crew doing a suit-up training in the 1G trainer, and they filmed it as a test so that they would know to set up the 16mm camera in the corner and the rest of it. And then suddenly this photographer comes in there and goes, I'm taking photos, and going, if the hoax nuts got a hold of this, I'd say,
Oh man!
So there's lots and lots and lots of footage, and there's I can't use it as well because the permissions would be outrageous unless somebody can maybe suggest how we go about doing this. They did an interview with Jules Bergman on the ABC for a program called Issues and Answers, and even Joe Kerwin watched it. I sent him a link, and he said, "What was I thinking with my suit?"
An interview you had of this?
Yeah.
That's where you play some of the funk music again?
That'll be in the bonus. Downloads now. Here's a good question for you. You would prefer H.264 MKV to be able to download, right?
Oh, I don't really care. As long as I don't have to have a physical disc. I'll take H.264, H.265. I think most people would want H.264. MKV is fine. I don't even need to necessarily download it. If I can just get it on like Amazon or Netflix or wherever, I'm cool with that too. And I'll pay for it. Yeah, I don't need a physical copy. I just need to. Again, I have zero devices that can play round spinny discs. I just have nothing hooked up to my TV capable of doing that.
Yeah, only my computers can play stuff. I don't even have a DVD player.
Most of my computers can't even do that anymore.
Retro.
Say it again?
It's going to be retro. In 10 years, it's going to be retro. Everyone's going to go, remember the days when we had the CD player that played MPEG-1? Well, that's what I'm doing right now because it's just so retro.
What do you mean in 10 years? It's retro now.
Dude, I put up a bunch of my CDs.
No one has it. In 10 years, it's going to be like vinyl where everyone's going, but why don't they make them anymore?
That's already happening. That's already happening. 2 years ago, when I was moving out of one of my flats, I sold a large part of my CD collection that I just didn't care about anymore because I had, downloaded most of it onto my computer that I wanted to keep. And I sold most of it to this 17-year-old girl who just lost her mind over these CDs and treated it as if it was like some sort of collectible vinyl. And I was just like, wow, this is interesting.
Man, CDs just sound so much better than digital, than the MP3s. Yeah, they just have an extra fullness to them.
Uh-oh, he's busting out the rocket.
How long did that take you to put together?
That's the Lego record, right?
That took my wife and I 2 days.
And Dada, I know you want to say it. How long did it take you to put it together?
3.5 hours.
3.5 hours.
Good job.
Good job, Dada.
Yeah, well, we had a Beach Boy concert we went to where I finally got the album that had half of them sign it.
You said
I got the other lot to sign it.
Did you
Beach
say
Boy concert, yeah.
A Beach Boy concert.
So we bought the thing on the Saturday. In the evening, we went to the concert. I was buzzing because they finally signed the rest of the record. And then the next evening, we woke up. I had night shift, and we were still in the time difference mode coming back from the US. So then we did the rest of it that evening.
Which album? Animals?
Sunflower.
Sunflower. Cool.
Is cool the word you're looking for?
No. That's pretty far out, man. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about retro. That's vinyl.
Oh my God. So Smokey Durg was correct. Quote, "We're winding down" equals 20 more minutes. But on that note, I think we are done. Thank you so much for taking time. Hold on.
Wait, one more thing. One more thing. I have to do it. I won't do it with the book because we're not talking about the book. We're talking about the film. Here we go. Look at that. That's a film canister.
Gross. What's going on?
And I did that for the book Live TV from the Moon, remember?
No, I don't. I probably blocked that from my brain. Oh, man. All right.
Well, this has been a lot of fun.
Diana's just going to go, Dwight, what the hell?
What? Yeah, what the hell?
That's all right. Carrie Ann's going to do that to Ben.
She already does. All right, it's been a lot of fun. It's been great. Like I said, we got to bring you back on when the documentary is released, and make sure to let us know. We'll promote that because I'm sure everyone out in the chat room is excited. I know I'm excited. I think it's gonna be really freaking cool. Even the music. I think it has a really cool feel to it. So yeah, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be great.
Thanks for having me on the show again. I thank you so much for going retro, because there was a time when you just wanted to concentrate on modern stuff, and I thought, I haven't got a chance of being on the show. And then when you said, Skylab, I went, yes.
Well, we try to. It's a balancing act, right? Because you can't ignore the past, but you also can't get stuck there either. So I try to do an 80-20. So 80% of the time it's future looking, 20% of the time we're looking backwards. And I think that seems to be a fairly decent balance, although I mess with the formula always. So yeah, absolutely. We'll see how that goes.
If it's Skylab, that's absolutely permitted to go 100% Skylab and 0 nothing. That's just the way it is.
All right. I think we're done. I got to get the hologram back to the airport. Give you back the rest of your Saturday. Thank you so much. Have a great one. Bye, everybody.
See you later.
Thanks, Dwight.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you. Bye.